Oh, Diane, have to remind me to tell you, I talked to my wife last night, and she giggled at me because she thought I was
Get us on.
ready.
Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for the updates, or the new versions, or, by the time I put all my papers together last night and tried to go over them again and slip them back into the right place, it took me about an hour to go through.
I know.
Okay.
Very time consuming.
And so I just wanted to start off with some of the issues and highlights of things that were sort of reconnected last night before we go into it. And then I had a question for discussion, and then we can get into the specific numbers. So, I'll use let's see. One of the issues, and I won't go into the details, is I think we all agreed to follow up with the accounting staff in town and school on what are the various other fund balances,
Yes.
and whether they would be available to be used for C.I.P, and to detail that. And if it's true, then just validate, is there a policy and a process in place today to get that done? And we talked about things like the muni transportation and the library trust fund. I won't go through all of them, but there's probably about 8 or 10 funds that we mentioned yesterday that we just like to nail down. But some little things, there was a shared truck between water and sewer, I think. Okay.
The back.
Then there was a question as to whether recreation can share the pickup truck with the school, because they both have requests in. That we didn't see, but supposedly there's an Underwood plan coming on sidewalks, some kind of sidewalk
At some point.
development, okay, and what that means and where they're needed. That the E1 Freightliner pumper that's requested by Fire and Rescue, which is a $500,000 piece of equipment, that we have insufficient funds unless we put a huge amount in this year, in which case it's more than likely going to be leased. So when we go through the numbers today, if it's going to be leased in an operating expense, we probably should take out the money that we're putting aside to buy that thing. As I said, these are just little bits and pieces. We mentioned determining what the use of Beach Street property would be prior to thinking about the improvements, at least nailing that down that are recommended. That we were missing page 2 of 4 of the wastewater treatment plant, but I think that
It's
came
already
in as
been
number
addressed.
59.
Yep.
Okay.
All those have been addressed.
That there's a shared, I think the share was between Public Works and Water and Sewer. That was the shared vehicle, okay.
But there was also a suggestion of sharing the Amy's
Right.
request for a vehicle
With
with
school.
the former school vehicle.
And that there's a shared storage shed between Water and Sewer, that's all within Sean's world. And we have several water mains to replace, they have the same picture. And that of the ESCO projects that are on Greg's list of things to look at, the 2 that qualified, I guess in size or in.
I have some updates on that today,
Okay.
if you'd like.
Well, let him finish
Yeah,
going through his
But the 2
list.
ESCOs were Town Hall Energy Efficiency and I think the Public Works Energy Efficiency Building. Those were the 2 that made it, and some of the others you mentioned didn't hit C.I.P.
I think it's, again, when you're ready, I have
Yeah,
a couple
that's fine.
updates on that
Sure.
I think are pertinent.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I thought you
that
still
was
had
my.
more things, I'm sorry.
No, that was just sort of my list of things I made sure that I got correct and we didn't want to forget as we went through today.
Okay, the updates that I have is I met with our ESCO provider this morning, as well as our contractor, control contractor. So what I've run into is at the Public Works garage where we want to put the solar array on the roof, we had a structural engineer come in and do a structural assessment of the roof structure, and it didn't come out so good. The structure, the roof structure, structural engineer said that the current roof is not capable of supporting what's up there now. We cannot add insulation, and we cannot add solar to that whatsoever. They're going to be putting that into a written report that we really should be looking at some structural repairs to that building before we even attempt to think of putting a new roof on that building. So that kind of hurt our numbers with the solar and trying to get that roof replaced. So, given that information currently, we may have to readdress what we look like on that particular roof. We are going to move the solar array to a ground-mounted solar array up on the hill at Public Works. So we're still gonna be able to keep that, it just won't be quite as large as we originally had hoped. But we certainly now have to deal with a structural issue or a constructural concern with that garage facility. So I can't do the roof at this point.
I don't know if you're aware of this, Greg, but the town administrator has been in negotiations with a cell tower provider who wants to locate a tower on that property, and it has not yet, in the back of the Public Works Department. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
I think that's at the top of the hill,
Okay.
and we're looking at the face of the hill.
Okay, I just wanted you to be aware that that is also
I
a
am
plan
aware of
that's in
that,
the
yes.
works.
But it kind of put a little hiccup into my plans for solar on top of that roof, as well as just replacing the roof, because the engineer feels structurally, we stripped the roof there, the added weight for the required R-value insulation will create a problem for the structural integrity of that building. Thus why Butler Building, who is the building manufacturer, requires us to shovel 10 inches of snow off, make sure there's no more than 10 inches of snow on that roof at any given time, because it's not structurally capable of handling anymore. There's more information to come with that. I don't have the structural engineer's written report, I just have the information that was provided this morning.
So would that cancel the projects that you have?
It does not cancel the project. What it does do is kind of change how we're approaching it. So that $170,000 roof project that is listed as a capital that I kept out of the ESCO needs to be kind of addressed a different way. I need to approach it differently, and I need to find out what really the structural levels are and what we have to do to be able to replace that roof, and it's going to change the dollar value of that considerably.
Okay.
You want to put a placeholder in?
Al, I don't feel comfortable putting a dollar amount to that yet, because I haven't done any analysis or what level of structural that the engineer is going to recommend.
So you're recommending we just take it out?
Well, we have a double issue too, because we were considering that if let's say the ESCO projects total up to be 250,000, that if we said yes to those, then we would take the ESCO projects out and say they're self-funding through the energy savings and wouldn't require.
So right now, the revised number that he has given me, removing that roof and doing ground mounts, are about 1.7 million for the community, which is primarily, there is PD work, there's the two big buildings, the town hall and Public Works. And like I said, it's about 1.2 million at this point, because I can't do the added solar work and roof work, which has part of that payback that I was hoping to utilize because of the structural concern. So right now, we're at 1.2. Believe it or not, it may actually help our numbers in some of the pieces of it, because I was absorbing the roof to try to get the roof in under an ESCO, which then kind of takes a big chunk of money out of the ESCO. So again, I've got more to come up with. I was hoping to have some of those finalized looking numbers this afternoon, but he did say it's going to take him a little bit longer to kind of crunch them. It's not what I wanted to hear, to be honest with you, but I can't in good conscience go forward with that $170,000 CIP now, knowing that structurally I can't do it.
What does the town administrator want to do relative to the CIP funding? Does he want to take it out? Does he want to wait?
The town administrator is out of town right now, so I have not been able to have this discussion with him.
Okay. Because that's really going to be a town council.
It is a town council decision.
Yeah, well, and if
I've made the submission, but I can tell you at this time that $175,000 that I had submitted will not be
Yeah.
sufficient to do the job because of the structural concerns that were just
we
brought
have
up.
172 if that was the public
Yep.
works
Yeah.
roof replacement. Okay.
I don't think there's anything this committee can do.
I think it's important that the committee knows that this is an issue that I'm up against right now. And Al, I wish I could give you some numbers of what that could look like, but I can't. I'm just not
But
comfortable
even,
doing that.
okay, just on a hypothetical, if first we have to fix the roof before we can do the energy savings and installation, or as you said, maybe move the solar panels elsewhere.
Right now, the ESCO is going to be will be moved, so the solar panels moved to the
Hillside.
sloped area.
Right, and I
Thank
thought
you.
that we were also putting in energy controls in the public.
That
works.
won't change that.
Okay,
Okay, what will change is, as the engineer I met with this morning said, the building is in rough shape. And actually, his words were, you should tear it down and build a new one. So I don't feel comfortable going any further with that. So it's a conundrum right now because of the situation.
okay, so just to deal with it for today's purpose, if you're saying most of the ESCO stuff, okay, that you still have planned, which are the solar panels and the energy management system, can be installed but not on the roof, and you may go ahead with that. We have a separate issue that's the structural integrity of the garage.
Of that garage area, yes. And please understand, that's not the fire department structure. It's not the actual administrative areas of the fire department and/or the public works. It's the old public works garage that those additions were attached to.
Well, if the roof falls in, we lose a lot of the equipment potentially.
I don't think the engineer was ready to say that the roof's gonna fall in. He was more
But
very
nonetheless, a
uncomfortable
separate
with it.
project. So if
Yeah.
we go through, it seems to me that even if the numbers change, the energy efficient ESCO project planned at Public Works is gonna go forward in some way. We just may
Correct.
now have a totally different problem that says you have to put a new roof on, and it's not gonna be done tomorrow.
And there may be structural work we're gonna have to do to be able to meet the current snow load requirements and that.
Okay.
It also means if we do go that route, we may still be able to put the solar up there in addition to the other solar that we're doing, which is an even greater thing, but there is, and I wish I had a better information for you right now, but I just don't.
I'm assuming it's not overly rational at the moment to say we're gonna immediately address this and put a new roof on in the next couple of months. So,
Because of the structural integrity that the engineer has brought up, there's more work to
Urgent.
do to try to figure out what to do. And I'm, because this came up this morning, the report came up this morning, I'm not prepared to go further than that because I just don't have the information gathered at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
I appreciate it. The other question I had in how we represent, because if I understand Diane's parameters that she's been given, we have to finish off this week what our recommendation is for CIP, because that's due by next Monday or something like that to the town council so they can cogitate on it. And the next event we may have after that, unless we're called into court for somebody here, is November 3rd, when we'd be speaking to the town council about our recommendations. So we have about a month difference in that. To the point of recommendations, and so we may have a month to get some of the answers on the funds, and that may end up being useful to us in the discussion that we have with the town council. Greg may have other issues of capital expenditure or putting a new roof on that could change it. But my question really is as we hone in on a number today, which is what our goal is, should we be taking out all the items there that are capital projects from the totals and put them somewhere else that are already bonded? In other words, if you say the school, which is 2 million something, 90% of that is already bonded and we're not requiring a capital contribution. If you look at water and sewer, that's self-funding, where we don't fund water and sewer out of the recommendation to the town council. They do that either through bonds or rates, right?
But we do need to include it in the capital improvement fund because they utilize impact fees for their expansion projects.
Okay.
So I would not leave
So we
that
may
out.
keep it in the total, but we may have to do a reconcilement off the total saying, for this year's contribution,
Mhm.
the school's 2 million,
Yeah.
make up numbers, 1.8 million is bonded, they're really asking for 200,000.
But then we're not going to be asking for it. That's what the recommendation is to the school board, who will be putting their budget together.
Right, okay. But we're not looking for new money, it's already covered by a bond. So I
Right.
think we have to go through and eventually take the total number that we have here that captures all the capital projects, take out a few things, which may be the items that are bonded, both in the school and the wastewater town, and try to get to the number that we had last year, which I think was 538,000. Not that that was our recommendation, but that's what the town council approved.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't want it to come out and say, gee, we have $5 million we have to put in, and the town council's only putting in 500,000. After we take away the bonds and everything like that, it may end up being a closer number, plus the recommendation for Greg's 100,000 or so maintenance fund for the smaller project to continue.
And that's in the operating
And
budget.
that's, yeah,
Right.
we shouldn't even be discussing that, because
Okay.
that's not part of our purview.
Okay. So what should we go through what we went through yesterday and,
I think we should
Put the
go through
numbers?
through each item, and I've actually updated the spreadsheet. I have taken out the priority rankings, and I included that on the backup sheet, which is double-sided.
okay, great.
So you can have that to refer to, and I also carried over the definitions, so it'll be readily available for on both forms to look at. And I have made a couple of revisions. I took out the Bay Road project, which was a sewer project that was in last year's C.I.P. That was a mistake I discovered.
Okay.
And so I think we're ready to start going down the list and deliberating with respect to the dollar amounts as requested, and plug in some figures.
Okay, I came out with just doing a couple of high level this week. There were 2 ESCO projects and we still have 3
There were
Library.
listed. Public Works Energy Efficiency was 1, Town Hall evac upgrades,
Library.
and the
Wasn't
Town
there one
Hall-
for a library, but that doesn't
The Town
start
Hall
till next year?
generator and transfer switch, I think Greg said was not an ESCO project.
That is correct.
Okay. So number 52, sheet 52,
Is one?
is not an ESCO. 47 and 54 are the ESCO projects.
I couldn't find it. I had to flip the old page over.
And that's it.
That's it.
And not the library?
It's
No.
not noted on this sheet
No,
as an
that's
ESCO
in
project.
here.
Right. I think the library was too small, or I forget what the reason was. It
Judy is
doesn't mean there's not a
disagreeing,
project. Okay.
Judy is disagreeing with that.
We've got, on the ESCO, it was the town hall, the Sunrise Center, the library, and Public Works.
Correct.
Those were ESCO projects, but for capital needs, Greg reduced it to just 2, Greg?
Well, the ESCO, so the ESCO individual projects, for instance, at the Sunrise Center, doesn't throw over the threshold of the $50,000, so it would not be listed here. It does not mean it's not part of the ESCO project, it just doesn't hit the $50,000 threshold
So it's not on
for
the
the,
list.
for the dollars.
Gotcha.
And the same with the police station, that is also not listed because it doesn't crest over the $50,000.
And I thought the library had some ESCO related, but didn't.
There are, but it, again, does not crest over
Okay.
the $50,000.
So that was my point. There's
Just
only
push
2
those aside.
that made the over 50,000 sheet.
The
But
two
you're
major
absolutely right, there are several other
projects
ESCO projects.
are the Public Works / Fire Department and the Town Hall. Those are both large dollar amounts compared to the others.
Yeah, okay.
And the only other quick thing, and thank you for putting all the bonds down here, this is great. Though, I don't, we have the first 2 of the school are bonded.
Well, I didn't,
just so
okay.
you know.
I mean, I do know that, but that's a funding mechanism. It's still on the CIP as a project that's
Yeah,
being
oh, I
implemented.
agree, but I thought you put bonds
Okay,
and grants
sure,
next to the
I can do
water
that,
stuff.
yeah, but there's no dollar figures in there, as you see.
For the elementary.
Yeah,
Oh,
and take
I
out on
gotcha.
number 31, it's not bonds and grants. I think that was a mistake.
Well, do you want to go in order as you suggested? I just
Yeah.
wanted to hit the highlights, okay. We'll cover it if we go through each of the items.
Okay, I just want to try to keep this simple, because it doesn't
agree.
need to be real complicated.
Public
Okay.
Works, vehicles and equipment.
Right.
Does anybody have any,
So the recommendation is 195,360 for the equipment. And the committee yesterday said that was a project that was necessary.
correct? And I don't think anybody had any issues with the dollar amount. That was the sum of all the projects.
No?
Okay,
So why don't you call for a vote, please?
can we vote on the 195,000 is really what we're voting on?
Right.
For
What we've done in the past.
1920 period.
What we have done in the past is gone down the list and asked for a motion for each one.
Okay. Oh, so we need to have the 5 people say I'll motion, okay.
Yeah, and then
Do I have a motion for the $195,360? Okay, all in favor?
Okay, now let me write
I think
in the
it was
amount.
unanimous, we didn't even have a.
Okay, 195,360. Thank you. 195,360.
Correct.
And that was for
By doing that,
6.
we're concurring with what was put up there, and it's necessary. Okay.
Okay.
Stormwater management, 25,000, we had that classified as an urgent. And Diane, thank you for doing all the updates to this, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I had recommended 50,000, and given the extent of work that needs to be done under the MS4 program.
Okay,
So,
and that's
what
on
it's
the
worth, that's my recommendation.
Have we revised the sheet on that, or we
No.
have 50 on the sheet?
No, this is up to you to
So
decide.
where are you now?
Stormwater management, the second item there.
They're requesting 25,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Diane is thinking that with the information she has, it should be 50,000. Because that's heating up.
Yeah, and I'm the coordinator of the MS4 program for the town right now. Just
I'll
so
make
you know
the
that.
motion that we approve $50,000.
Okay. Let me ask for a motion then, Judy. Are
Okay.
you motioning?
I make the motion. that we
Judy
approve
motions. Do I have a
$50,000.
second? Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna move that up to 50,000.
You
Vote.
gotta have a vote, and then I'll write it in.
Okay. Road improvements?
No, we
No,
have a motion
we
on the
haven't.
floor.
Oh, sorry, we have to vote on the 50,000
Yes.
change, I apologize. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Go through the whole thing? Nope, okay, good. It passes. Road improvements.
No, we missed sidewalk. And why don't we
No,
say
sidewalk-
not,
sidewalks is underneath road on this sheet.
which one are you looking at? Okay,
Your new
It's summary
revised
sheet.
one?
No, it's
Um,
sidewalk development.
Sidewalk development is,
okay, I'll have to reverse those, that's all. They just need to be reversed on the plan.
I am looking at what you did. Good. Okay, so we do road improvements? Road
Whichever one you
improvements,
wanna
we
do.
said 260,000. Let me get a motion and we can discuss
Make a
these.
motion to approve.
We're talking about roadways?
We're talking about road improvements for 260,000 for 1920 period.
Motion to
And
approve.
I have the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Trevor seconds. Discussion. Anybody want to challenge the $260,000 number? Up or down? Hearing no discussion. Call a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? 260,000. Sidewalk development. Let's get a motion on the table to discuss. Do I have a motion? Okay.
Motion to approve.
I have Al's motion.
Second.
Amy? Thank you. Discussion. I'm gonna throw a quick one here saying if we don't quite have a sidewalk plan at the moment, is it necessary we contribute this year? Or due to it being an end but not here, should we push that off a year or consider that?
I don't think we have a year to wait. I think if they're gonna do anything, and the sidewalks is gonna do it sooner than, we're talking about 1920. We're talking about next July, when they would have
Okay.
something in place.
And this has been funded at zero level for the
Yes.
last 4 years since it was set up.
Well, in the building, what Judy said, I believe he said to when he was here that he was working on a plan. So they have that.
Yeah, there's one from Underwood that's due at some point.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So that could be completed within the next
Right.
3 or 4 months, so next
Right.
June we could do something in July.
Right.
July.
Right.
Well, good. I'm glad I brought up the issue. I'm glad we talked it through. Any other comments on? Okay. So all in favor of the sidewalk development 50,000?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any nays? Any abstentions? No. Okay. So we're done with Public Works with a plus 25 change. But one of the reasons I brought up that on sidewalk development is we go through this and we hit the Ds and some of the other Ns, that may be an area where, speaking of the first one, Beach Street extension at the senior center or other use property as a D1, 14,960. Do I have a motion? Okay. Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay. I'll get back to the same statement.
Okay, good
It's a-
question. Do you want to go through each and every project and vote on that, or go through the summary?
It would reduce the bottom line, if we take them out.
Yeah, but I guess, Mike, you're saying. if we-
Okay, in the past, our recommendation has been based on the summary cost of the facilities. Do we want to fine tune this and go through and have a motion on each and every item that we received a request for?
Well, here's what's on my mind, and is that we have some things, and I don't know what the mood is, so maybe let's talk about that. We have some things that are D1s, and Ds, which, depending on with the wastewater treatment bonds, with the school bonds, do members of the committee think that some of these lower priority items should be delayed in funding? I think it's great that they're here as a project and captured, but for this year's 1920 funding, do we want to consider not funding it or not based on the priority? That was my only question. Anybody have any comments?
I just don't think it's a need.
I tend to, can I?
Yeah.
Okay, I just, as the planner, I would recommend there should be a reuse plan for the property,
Okay.
for Beach Street, and it sounds like there's been some thought given to it, but we really haven't established a program, and I think that it's premature to include it in
Okay.
this year's.
I would agree
So
with that.
I
agree.
think maybe that's when we would most definitely want to
Super.
defer.
So let's see if we can zip through the projects.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're saying it's a valid item to be there, but to zero out.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that that's the way we're gonna do this. Leave it there as a project for the future, but zero out this year.
Yes.
Okay, super. New Market Recreation,
Well, I think,
So we're gonna do them all,
why don't we talk about each one?
Okay.
and Just as we're doing now, and figure out if we want to delete some. And then once
There's
we've
one.
done that, then we can do a motion and we can put the summary
Okay.
figure in on the green sheet.
yeah,
Oh, so do I need to remove that and then do it on the whole thing?
Oh, well, since we're deleting it, maybe it's,
well, we're not deleting it as a project, we're just
But I
deleting
mean,
the
it's
number for
like-
1920.
there is a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the
Necessary.
oh, okay, well, that one we should address that then. Okay,
In-
up to you.
If we're gonna make any changes, we need to document the changes
we
in the
should.
minutes at the detail
s-
level, so we can have the
Okay.
number,
All right,
otherwise
I just
nobody's
wanna
gonna
know
know
where
how we
we're
got
going,
there.
that's all.
Okay,
Okay.
so at the moment, let's hold the motion for the end. But so far, I'm hearing positive on keeping the project, putting a 0 in the 1920 column.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna go down Diane's mini list.
Well, wait a
New
minute.
Market,
Did you vote on it? We
well,
voted on it.
No,
No.
no, we didn't, we're holding the vote.
Okay.
we can we can either do it
If you
item
vote
by
for it.
item, or we can do it at the end. What do you want to
Okay.
do?
I don't care. Just, let's make a decision.
If you then want to still be first, make the motion and second it, then.
How about,
Wait a minute, we've already gone through 6 items and voted on them.
Right.
My recommendation, let's just get them done, let's continue.
Okay.
Okay.
Then
That's my recommendation.
the motion's on the floor.
okay. All in favor of making 0 for the 1920 for Beach Street?
Aye.
Nays, abstentions, done. Just do we all agree, use any name you want for the motion and the second, and be as creative as you would like, Susan, to speed the process? Okay, discussion on New Market Recreation Center parking lot. They
So
have
moved.
No, there's no,
there's no impact
No,
on this
there's
year?
nothing recommended for this year, so
Right.
we can move on.
I'll
move
second
to the
that.
next
Okay.
one, which is the $13,000.
Okay. Recreation Center Roundhouse, I think we thought that was,
It was urgent / necessary.
right. All in favor?
Well, you gotta make the motion first.
Well, we're having
Well-
Susan, okay, whatever.
No,
Okay,
Al
one
thinks
motion.
we should keep voting.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna
each item.
vote.
That's what
I
he
was
said.
just trying to shorten the motions.
Okay,
Okay, I'm not making up names.
all right, so is there a motion to approve
Sure,
13,000?
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, so is it a
Discussion.
vote?
Discussion on recreation.
I'm not gonna support it, because I haven't had any suggestion. I did miss the meeting, so if I'm missing something, by all means, tell me. But I haven't heard any discussion about the people that are using that facility think it's necessary. I've heard from the facility manager that it's in trouble, but I haven't heard anybody say, I want bathrooms back again, I want to be able to sell hot dogs out of it again. And until I hear that, I wouldn't support it.
Mr. Chair, can I speak?
Sure.
This first step would be to replace the roof, which
Yeah.
has failed. Not selling hot dogs or reestablishing a bathroom. We need to be, the roof right now is in a complete disarray of functionality. How's that? So we also have severe rot in the side of the buildings and doors that do not function. This is not to reestablish, but to try to protect the facility itself from continued damage.
So the total you're recommending is $13,000 a year for 6 years to put a new roof on it?
No, I'm recommending to do phased pieces to this building, and right now, I need to put a roof on that. That's the U part of the urgent. Then, I also have to deal with wood rot, which I would recommend in year 2, and then as we go forward, we will be able to fine tune where this building goes. But right now, I've got a roof that is in really bad shape out there, and I've got a building that's in trouble of continuing to dilapidate because of that.
Well,
You've got almost $100,000.
well, we're not approving the 100,000, we're just approving that it's
This
a
year?
valid
Right.
project, and we're putting,
Right.
we're asking to put 13,000 away.
Right.
I don't know if that takes care of the roof in the
I
first
can do
year.
the roof for right around 13 grand, and that's what I'm looking to do. It's standard residential roof shingle type.
And then I would say CIP next year can look at the next year's projections, may
Good
go
idea.
down to 13 or 12, but if we're just focused on 1920. So, do I have a vote on and I would agree with your issue that let's not have the asset deteriorate where we can never use it again. At least let's keep it there until we figure out exactly what we're gonna do with it and put the roof on, so.
It's a good idea.
Okay. So thank you, Greg. All in favor of 13,000?
Aye.
All right. Nays, abstentions? Okay. At Amy's suggestion, if we got 0, we're okay with the project because we approved it yesterday and we don't have to vote on the number because there ain't one. Okay. All right. If somebody wants to put a number on one of these, please, stop me.
No,
Public Works Access Control Surveillance,
no, zero.
okay. Town Hall building improvements as necessary.
I make a motion.
Judy motions.
Second.
Okay, Trevor seconds. Discussion.
I think it's a great idea.
So do I. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Done.
Total of $18,090.
Yes. Town Hall generator and transfer switch. I believe, let's get the motion done. I'll motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. A tie.
$10 a second is what you get.
This is,
15 for the making the motion.
you have to leave at 5 o'clock?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Oh, okay, all right.
Is this the one you had issue with if there wasn't a generator for the school yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And I thought about that a lot since then, and I think my point is valid, that this is the only, let me tell you what I wish would happen. What I wish would happen is the town and the school put their CIPs together, the administrators talk, just like they would on funding for something, and say, look, I'm gonna put in $50,000 for security, and the other one says, well, I got a school. So that was part of this community concept. It hasn't happened.
What I would, well, we're making progress.
I will piggyback that, to kind of use an example, it's a bad example, but an example nonetheless. It would be as if we would do the public works access control and surveillance without doing the school one first. It's kind of the same.
Which, by the way, interestingly enough, 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, when Matt was still here, Matt recommended $150,000 for security in this building. We didn't have security in the school, and it got voted down, just because of that reason.
Look, I would prefer to say it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and if we can vote on an
Yep.
amended motion here that says leave the project, but with the understanding or recommendation to
Yep.
the town council and school board is collectively get together on the need for backup power generation.
Mr. Chair, could I interject too?
Sure.
It's acceptable. Just on this is the first putting away of money towards a generator at Town Hall here. The school, I'm trying to also work on addressing that. I do believe that there needs to be a generator at our schools. But to help people along, for instance, the security system that's now in Town Hall here is tied into the exact same security system that we have at the recreation center and the exact same security system that is at both schools. So we have one system that does all of them. So we have all of those synergies, and we are working towards building off of that same thing. So when we talk public works, which is not this request, but the next request in 2021, it will also tie into that same backbone. So as we have been building towards that, the synergies with purchasing a generator for one facility to another doesn't have a physical connection between, whereas the security and our access systems and things like that do. On this, my recommendation would be is that we start to put the money away, because we do need a generator in this facility, and then work towards getting money for the schools, but that is a separate piece.
I think what I'd like, and if we have comments to make and we agree, is to say, we agree with the project, we agree to start to fund the town generator, not to get it, and then we strongly urge the town and the school to, through the facilities director, to look at all the needs of both the school and the town, and anyone else who may need emergency power backup to expand the project if it's required. That's just, we like the project, but it's only the beginning. Let's do more of it.
Final word on it, I'm not gonna support it, because if a member of the community asked me why we're putting money away for a generator for the town hall, and the school does not have one with 1,000 students in it, I think this is the only place that issue comes together. It comes to place in no other organization than the CIP.
I don't have a problem with your voting what you want to vote. I'm voting that the people who are voting aye are voting on, it's a start, but it's not enough. Let's include the school in the project. That's our recommendation. With that there, that says it's a start, but let's include the school. All in favor of funding, beginning to fund the access, which one is this now?
It's,
The generator and transfer switch,
mhm.
and expand the project to include the schools.
Wait a minute.
Expand,
You can't.
long-term, not the funding.
The CIP committee can't do that.
We
You
can't,
recommend
we
it.
can recommend.
You can make
Pardon?
as many recommendations as you want.
We're gonna
You have no
recommend that the
authority to-
project be expanded to include the schools,
It's a
but we're
recommendation.
saying keep the project on the list, but expand it. That's our recommendation.
So we agree on the money, but we recommend that it be,
The project
Right.
be expanded to include other needs, especially the schools for,
I'll accept that.
we're saying what you're saying.
Yeah, he's not in favor
But
of
that's up to
approving
you.
any money this year for it, I
But
think is
that's
what I
up to
heard.
you. Okay. Since, I'll call for a vote on what I think is an expanded project, but approving what's down there. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
One nay.
No, nay.
Two, okay. So we're 3-2. That should get somebody's attention.
Okay.
That's all I'm.
So it's
I
32
understand.
and 40?
That's cool. Keep it, yep, at there.
Okay.
HVAC upgrades, we're leaving out for ESCO.
Yep,
McAllen Dam,
$50,000.
$50,000. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Okay. Let's fix it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any nays? Okay. Stone Museum. Anybody want to make this a package now? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
I'll second.
Okay.
What was his motion? To approve?
Motion.
To approve 50.
To
For the
approve the
exterior.
museum exterior.
18.5.
1850.
$18,500.
18,
Any discussion? Should be a surprise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Stone Museum interior. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion
And
to
I'll
approve
second
the 10,000.
What's the
Trevor?
motion?
And Al?
To accept the 10,000.
$10,770 for the Stone Museum interior.
I need to know what you're recommending in your motion.
Thank you.
dollar amount.
Dollar amount, please, thank you.
1870.
1077.
I mean, 10,770.
Right, okay.
Okay, any discussion on this?
Yes.
I
would
like
like
Al.
Trevor and then Al.
and-
Trevor and
Oh,
Discussion.
Any discussion?
I would like to, I think that one of the provisos on this would be to check with preservation on, because it is a historic building, what is allowed to be done, what has to be done, and what could be taken off the books. I mean, taken off the list of things to be done. So again, this is one of the provisos, because it is a historic building, there could be some specifics that have to be addressed by New Hampshire Preservation, the feds, who knows?
Would
Will
there
get
be any
involved in it?
other, sorry, would
There
there
are
be
no-
any trust fund because it's a historic?
No.
No? Okay.
There are no federal funds involved in the project, so it's not required under section 106.
Okay, well, I was just saying, whoever might be, I would say.
And my question is, I do know it's on the National Register as an individual nomination. Do they provide that service to municipalities to provide recommendations, even if it's not a federally funded
New Hampshire
project?
Preservation?
Yeah.
Yes,
So the SHPO, even though it's not federal funds at
yeah,
all?
yeah,
Okay.
no, that's a
So
state
you-
office.
I
Okay.
know, but I
Yeah,
just
I'm
wanna
sorry.
make sure they have, you
So
know,
do-
so
I'm
they would
I'm
do
saying that
recommendations.
we move forward with the 10-7, but we make sure,
Subject to.
subject to
Their review
whatever
and review.
requirements are for historic preservation through the New Hampshire, whatever office that might be.
Mr. Chair?
But they don't have
Yes.
authority to force section 106 because it is not a
Here's the
federal
Right, fine,
recommender, let's see
okay.
if the recommender has something.
We would be going through, whenever we do a renovation of this type of building, we would be making sure that we meet all state, local applicable codes that apply to it, and that would also be, if there's historic requirements to it.
There are none.
As I'm saying, we would check to make sure, as we go through that, to verify that any of those that might be in play would be reviewed. If they're not, then they're not.
I just want to advise you that unless there's federal funds or state funds involved in the project, they can make recommendations, but they can't require that those improvements.
And
be
that-
made.
and that would
That's
be-
a distinction that's important.
And that would be noted as part of our due diligence that we would do with any type of project.
They probably would be more than happy to provide some recommendations to the town.
If I understand Judy's issue, which is, hey, make sure you check on the historical and that whatever we're doing, it's approved and is valid on that. And Greg is saying that's part of the due diligence
Okay.
that they're
All right,
gonna
that's
do.
all I'm
There's no
saying.
regulatory authority
Yeah, okay.
over a
No,
private.
oh, that's
I
okay
know,
then.
we
publicly
know.
funded
We know.
project.
But
Okay,
that
so
doesn't,
it can
it's
be a-
just a due diligence
It can
question.
be a recommendation, but they can't force you to do it.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so,
it may increase the cost considerably,
Well,
just bringing that out.
no, I'm saying if Judy is satisfied that as part of the due diligence process, Greg says he's gonna check with the historical and any of the other appropriate areas, then I think you don't need to amend the motion, do you, Judy? Or are
No,
you
I
comfortable with that?
don't.
Okay. So, with that understanding from the guy who's in charge of the project, and we can hold him accountable, all in favor of approving the 10-770?
Aye.
Right.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Done. Fire Department bunkhouse.
Make a motion to approve the fire department bunkhouse and facilities
Do I
in
have,
the amount of $48,700.
is there a second?
Well, second.
Okay. Discussion.
I'm biased. I've never been convinced that.
We need it. Well, we haven't funded it, I don't think, and this
Yeah,
has been
it's
another
quite the
zero.
jump from
Yeah,
the
no.
previous requests, previous years.
And I know Rick feels very strongly about it, but as I look through the recommendations for, housing people that are too far away, I just don't,
It would be nice to see a lower number.
Pardon?
The entire project's based on a $275,000 project. It's pretty extensive.
Okay, any other discussion? I'm sort of, if I understand Al and agree with him, that it would be nice to have, but as a high priority at the moment. I know it's been talked to as it will help attract volunteers and people who live further away, and would make it easier to staff. But I'm assuming you're speaking as a voted not to fund it, but to keep it as a project.
That's
On the
correct.
long-term list for the year. Okay? The motion is for 48, okay? So a nay vote would be keep it as a project, don't fund it, because we're not eliminating projects at this point in time. And a yay vote would be for the 48, because that's what the motion was. Any other discussion?
Well, I just wanna add, I don't know if this is gonna mean anything one way or another, or anybody's voting, but with the MRI study that we did, on the town council, part of the recommendation to the fire department was to increase their volunteers, because we're one of the last volunteer fire departments in New Hampshire. So if this is something that would help with that, I would be supportive of it, to go along with that study.
Okay. Is that a study, or is that a doing it? I think,
It was a
study
recommendation.
with recommendations that they did
About 2 or 3
3
years.
years ago, with recommendations to each department.
okay.
It's good information.
So right now, the motion is to fund.
The motion is to fund. Is there any other discussion, since we have thoughts on both sides? All right, let's call the question. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I take solace in the fact the project's there and we still think it's necessary. We're just
Absolutely.
not funding it this year. Okay. Okay. Next up, Town Hall facade, tin work. This one, if I remember, struck me as if we don't do it, we may lose it.
It's deteriorating at a pretty good clip.
Okay.
It's tin, it's rusting out is what it comes down to. The front's been painted, which actually looks much better than the backside, which wasn't painted as much, so it's starting to rot the whole backside out.
Probably done in 1800 something.
I couldn't
If you
hear
have to leave, you have to leave.
I said it was
Is there
probably
anything
done in
else you wanna
1800 or
make issue
something.
with?
What's this building? This building's what, 1904?
Yeah,
I
that's
believe?
close. Yeah, okay.
1920.
Whatever, forget it. It's just a
Whatever.
comment,
It's been around a while.
yeah.
I think that was the school. Was the school.
St. Mary's School.
Okay, all those, do I have a motion? Do I have to do that? Okay, motion,
I'll make the motion.
second,
I'll second.
Trevor, okay. Discussion? Well, I can only say if the facility director says it's it is useful to fix now or forever hold its peace, I will go with his insight. Okay, any other discussion? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Abstention? All right. motion
Mr. Chairman,
carries.
if I can be excused for 20 minutes or so, I think I can come back. I'm going over to the food bank. and-
That'd be delighted. If you actually come back in 20 minutes, we'll let you discuss something we may have already voted on in your absence if it's that passionate for you. Okay. The next one is the roof at Public Works, which I'm assuming we're talking about the garage, which we talked about before.
That is correct.
Okay. And we have no idea whether this is sufficient. So the project seems to have made the urgent list. I think it was there before. urgent with a bullet. And we don't have a better number than 172. I would put this up for motion at 172. Do I have a with needs to be updated based on structural engineer's report?
Second.
Okay, so I'll motion that. Judy seconded. So we're voting on the 172 because it's the best we know with the bullet that says subject to change when the structural engineer's report is issued. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? So moved. All right, we have finished Public Works with a few modest changes, right?
Well, one change. We deleted the Beach Street Senior Center project.
Public
Right.
Works, we deleted the stormwater management.
No, we didn't.
Included it.
This is
Yeah, but this-
facilities, not
this is
public
this
works.
is facilities. I thought we ended up taking the money out of 1920 for the fire department bunkhouse, but keeping the project in as necessary.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Right, didn't we vote on that? I think it was
We
Taking
unanimous.
out? the
We're
above-
taking out the 48.7.
Okay,
And
I'm
the
sorry.
14,960,
And 14.
960 on
and we're
Beach Street.
adding 25.
No,
No,
that's not under
the
facilities.
25 was added in Public Works.
Oh,
Right,
oh, sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
So all we've done is to zero out, we kept all the projects as listed, and we've zeroed out
Who
two of
has a
the.
calculator?
I was looking for
I
I'm
do?
doing this in my head, but,
Okay,
No, 48.7.
so assuming your total is correct, I have a
we're
calculator.
taking it out.
Okay, so I'm gonna take 417,460, and I'm gonna take
I have
away
14,960.
14,960.
I have 353,80.
970. I come up with 352,800 is the new number.
Okay, and I forgot to take two or three.
555,360 is Public Works.
No, we're not doing,
No,
No,
we did, we
no,
finished it.
no.
Amy's
We're
just
doing
backdooring the
just-
first one.
just facilities.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I have
Mine's-
352,800, see if you
I had
agree with me. Amy.
358,300.
Okay.
358,800.
7.
I have 353,800.
I do too.
Okay, I have 417,460, right? Minus 14,960,
Right, which is 402,500.
and then minus 48,700?
Yeah.
Right,
3538.
Yeah,
3,538.
353,800.
Okay.
Oh, so that's the new facility line
Correct.
that will go on the front page.
Okay, library.
Wait a second, let me do it first.
Your committee's anxious to move forward.
I know, but you gotta record it on the sheet or else I'll forget it and it will be lost forever.
All right,
Thank you. Library.
the library. Pedestrian enhancements as a D1 26,340. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the 26,340 on the pedestrian
Do I have a
enhancement.
second? I'll second. Okay, Amy. Discussion. This is, just looking at the numbers, it just strikes me as we're asking for funds for the less important, and we're not asking for funds this year for the more important.
You're talking about the roof?
Roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because we just did a bunch of work on the roof and felt that we could get through the year.
Okay. So, as the facilities person who's got this in there, right, is this part of your facilities, or this is
Yes.
them doing this themselves?
Nope, this is part of the facilities.
Your recommendation is start funding these things now?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Would that allow you to do some of the work? If you
On
had to?
pedestrian enhancements?
Yeah,
Just got a new set of plans on what they're looking at, and gonna start to refine that down, but there is that possibility, yes.
I mean, again, phasing things in as we were on other
Yep,
projects.
just got the new plans,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Okay, but it's to be a phased problem, a phased issue.
We're gonna work on,
Project.
see how we can break that so it works up.
Yeah, okay.
As a feasible project. Feasible.
Dan can dance. Can we do are we willing to consider doing the library as a package of 3 with 1 vote, based on that discussion?
Package.
Okay. Yeah, we have 3.
We have 3
Okay.
projects, but we have 2
Right, I'm
being
gonna,
requested for funding.
I'll make a motion that we take the 3 projects as proposed by the
We
facilities.
have a motion on the floor.
Oh, do we? Okay, okay.
Trevor, would you like to modify your?
I'll make a motion to package deal.
Okay,
Second.
we have a second from Amy. All in favor of the 3 projects as reported for library? Say aye.
3950. Yep,
Yep.
Correct?
Mhm.
Yep.
39,590.
All in favor of the library?
Aye.
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 Okay, done. Fire and rescue.
I just realized something, just to bring to your attention. The McAllen Dam has its own revolving loan fund, and I think what we just did was we lumped it in
Into-
with buildings and grounds.
Yep.
So we need to modify the building improvement line to
Ah,
be $3,800.
That's what I did.
so that's duped in here?
Yeah,
300 what?
303,800.
Is 50,000.
Where is it
To
if
the
it's
calendar.
not in facilities?
It's its own special account.
But you're saying it shouldn't be on the list, or it's on?
It should be on the list. There's a separate account for the McAllen
Okay, so
Dam
we're moving
that
it
is
out of
not-
facilities and making it a separate item.
Yes, which is.
for purposes of the CIP,
For
yes.
purposes of
Okay.
number 13.
So we're not changing the numbers, we're just changing it
We're
into
just
its own
moving it into
category.
its own
Moving it
category.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, I'm sorry for that.
excellent. I'm gonna
Oversight?
suggest fire and rescue we do separately, based on the comment on the E1 that's planned to be leased, because we don't have enough money to buy it. If you go to the fire and rescue, there's a $500,000 price tag on what Rick, if you remember when he was here, said it needs to be replaced this year or next year. We don't have the cash in the fund. So he was gonna recommend that it be entered into as a lease, which would no longer be a capital requirement. It would be an operating requirement to probably pay it off over, I don't know, 5-6 year lease. What'd you think, Rick? Maybe more? It's just, we're funding it, I think, for 25,000.
I mean, it's gonna show up, it's gonna show up in your CIP under the equipment line, because the payment's gonna be over $10,000 a year, so you're still gonna have it as part of your CIP, it's just gonna be housed under equipment instead of a single capital expenditure.
So is it, you're saying it's part of CIP still?
It's still part of CIP, because the way CIP is structured, you have equipment 10,000 and over is CIP, and capital improvement projects are 50,000 and over. So it's still a CIP item. It's just that if you're gonna finance it, it becomes that 10,000, well, it depends on what the payments are a year, but it comes into that other category. But it's still a CIP item.
So you're saying we should contribute into CIP vehicles, because even though it's leased, it will still show as a
That's where they,
CIP
that's where
expense.
they, because it is an equipment
Because it's equipment.
item.
And lease is one of the options for financing.
Okay. So
It
I
should be
stand
under other.
corrected, if we're leasing it, it's not part of regular operating expense, it would still be tracked as a CIP expense? Is what I'm being advised.
It comes
That's
down
right.
to what the payment amount is, and by
Payment's
looking,
gonna
by
be well
thinking about
over-
how much this vehicle will be,
It's 500 grand and ain't gonna be financed for more than 10 years, it's gonna be over
and so if you do
10,000.
simple math, that's 50 grand a year without any interest, so it
So it
falls into your
qualifies as a
CIP.
Okay,
Right.
super. And thank you for that information, in which case, we have a motion on vehicles in any case. I think we got a motion there. Did we have
Is
a
this
motion?
one that you
No.
want to
Good. Package.
bundle
Package.
together?
Yes. Putting aside that comment, which we've just said was unnecessary on my part, with the better understanding, let's package fire and rescue. Do I have a motion to package the two projects and approve as projected? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Amy Trevor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Done.
132,750.
Correct.
Police. Based on the review, I would like a motion to package the police. I have Amy moving
Second.
for the two projects. I have Trevor seconding it. All those in favor of keeping the two projects and funding at 72,970 combined?
Aye.
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 402.
I think we probably need to go over the rec department individually.
Yes, we do.
Before I ask for a motion, I just think the skateboard park was just funded by itself. It wasn't one of those fancy move money from 9 area things. That was the water,
Flash.
yeah, that came funding from a lot of places.
The skateboard park.
Number 4.
Yeah,
On
I don't
the
see it
sheets.
on my,
Oh, I have it as
It's very,
on this sheet.
oh, maybe that's why, okay. Oh, it's on the front page, gotcha.
I just need to familiarize myself with page 4 again. It's funding over
Good.
2 year. Oh, there are some grants attached to that.
The skateboard park?
I think it's
Yep.
the Tony Hawk grant is one of them.
Right, there's a Tony Hawk grant, there's 20,000 coming out of the revolving fund, and there's 10,000 from fundraising, whatever that specific is. So the 17.5 is just a partial cost
Okay.
that we're asking for the town. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to accept the 17.5 cost of the skateboard park.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the skateboard park? If I remember, that was in ill repair and needed.
It is. And this would be a facility managed project when it gets installed.
Good. I have the utmost confidence in our facilities director. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Get the right sheet. I flipped it and it dis, oh, that's,
What are you looking?
no, I just gave it to you
It's
to
on
take
the
a look at.
opposite
so,
side.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So, here we go. Shade and rain shelter at rec area. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to accept the 14,170 on the shade and rain shelter.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion?
Yeah, do we have a discussion? I'm just looking at my
So
notes.
D1 is how we rated it.
I think it's just a bit superfluous. I just don't think it's needed at the moment. I know it's spanned out. When was it going to be commencing?
Didn't you just make a
Um,
motion? Can you do that? You just made a motion to approve it. Can you?
That's just to get it in.
To get it
Okay.
in.
Well, let's,
Gotcha.
let's discuss
Sorry,
it.
Because if nobody,
that's all right.
I think
No,
it's just to talk about it.
It's just to talk about it, okay. And you're saying you're not in favor of it, though?
that is correct.
Okay.
I have a note that says the revolving fund is paying for resurfacing.
And this would be from what Amy was saying, I believe, in her, the necessity, and correct me if I'm wrong, was a lot of it for the camp, the rec camp, correct?
She showed the pictures of the children.
Yeah, because I know that there's not a lot of shaded area.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel as if there's other shaded areas around the whole park, and hopefully there'll be a
It's not
splash
a lot.
pad
That's
there.
the thing, there isn't.
There isn't a lot of shaded
It's
areas.
the field,
Yeah,
the field by the rec.
yeah, yeah.
And then, but that's where they are.
Yeah, the department, the building, the center doesn't have a lot of shade, but I'm saying the field in general.
No, it's right in
No,
the
it
sun.
doesn't have very
In the
much.
summer.
In the
It's-
summer,
they're
it's
right
really
in the
hot.
sun most of the day.
Over
Unless they're on a
over
field
by the
trip.
swing set and where the splash pad would be.
It's all
No,
sunny.
this
No,
is, this is
there's-
actually, at the backside near the skate park.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying,
If
in
you
general,
look
in
at
that
the
area.
building, it's near the building and back.
Okay, and so as a result of your thoughts on,
I just feel like if there's a splash pad there, that's where the majority of the kids will be.
so you're saying you don't think this is necessary at this
Correct.
point?
Okay.
Okay, let's have one discussion. Trevor was saying his
24,
feeling was it
25.
was
Thank you.
not required to fund. Is there any other discussion on that?
So the shade is.
I have mixed feelings on it. I think, again, it's a good project. I don't think it should be something that, I think they should be putting away for it, but I don't think it's something that has to go up this next season.
Okay.
The actual project's slated for 24-25 fiscal year.
So this is just starting to save for it.
Correct.
Okay. I recognize this may not be perfect, so somebody stop me. I'm looking at the rest of the items there, and I don't know if it's our feeling that we would approve them all or take one or two off that we thought needed to be shaved. I certainly think the vehicle issue, with the school saying it just bought a larger truck and they don't necessarily have the needs in the summer when Amy's is the highest, is the sharing of that pickup truck, et cetera, with the rec department and the school. I would hope is something they could look at and not buy two vehicles. The school just bought a used 2011 truck, if I remember from yesterday. That's a larger
Amy
truck.
wants to share it?
No, we're saying.
We're
that we
suggesting.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Suggested.
okay.
Amy
Amy
wants
wants
to,
a new, she wants to buy a.
Amy
used one
wants
as
to
well.
buy a truck a little smaller than the one they got to be able to move equipment and things like that to support the recreation
Yeah,
program.
right.
I think that
This is
makes
true.
sense.
Yeah.
This sharing concept makes sense.
Yes.
Well,
Especially since they own the property.
say that again?
The school owns the property.
Yeah.
And the town uses it. So they could, they're just paired already to share.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's inappropriate.
But we're not talking about that, we're talking about the shelter.
Right, but
Right,
the
but
the
we're
reason I was,
talking about all of
the
them.
reason I was bringing this up is I don't know where everybody's coming out. And so even if it's not kosher in terms of making everything, I feel this particular thing on the vehicles is one that I would want to say, hey, share, and I take the money out. Signage, I'm not sure person, I'm just giving my views and I'd like to hear other people's. Signage doesn't strike me as something that is extremely urgent to fund this year. So if I backed off on that, then I certainly would say the splash pad and restrooms, I think, is the most important, and I really don't know on the shade thing. I take Trevor's comment, but shade during the summer, they play basketball under this and all that?
I do as well.
Okay. That was mine, and I'd like to hear other people's opinions if you have them. Ladies?
I think the sharing the vehicle, is
The
it all right to
sharing-
talk about?
Yeah, we
I just
just
wanna
wanna
make
do it
sure I'm
one
doing
by-
it the right way.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
we're talking about all the different.
Okay, so I think sharing the vehicles is a really good idea.
Yeah.
So I agree there. And I also agree the signage is probably the least priority of the group. And it's just, I mean, I just have experience with summer camp, so this is really.
And I do too, and I know it's a problem.
Yeah, so
Your daughter
the
went.
splash pad, the splash pad and the shade, I would agree with, because I do know those kids all summer long. They're there for all but 2 weeks if they're not in school, and they're there every day. And just from experience, I do know that there is not a lot of relief on hot days, so much so that I keep my own children home on super hot days. And it's tough when I work. So, if this will help that, and I don't want any kids to come back with heat stroke or anything like that, you know, if that would help, I would be in favor of those two, for sure.
Okay. Judy, any comments?
No, I agree with Amy.
Okay.
We're putting, again, with the
So-
proviso, as Greg said, without the grant funds for the splash
Splash
pad, it's a dead issue.
Right.
So that's an important.
Right.
Are we voting on the
Yeah.
item by item?
Yeah,
or-
I
The
guess we're
reason I
gonna
wanted
have to vote
discussion-
item by item.
Yeah, and we
because
can
there
vote
seems to be
item by
disagreement.
item. So let's do, with that discussion that everybody
Vote on
heard,
the first one.
let's vote on the first one as shade and raid shelter for the rec department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. The motion passes. I think we have all the votes. Electronic signage board, I would vote on keeping the project as on the list, but not funding it this year.
Is
Is
that a
the motion
motion?
I'm looking for. So I'll motion that myself.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second.
You can do it this
Yeah, you
time.
got it.
Any discussion?
We're gonna spread the wealth.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All those in favor of maintaining the project but zeroing out the next year amount, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None? Okay. Splash pad and restrooms, again, subject to having all the funds from all the other areas, okay, as presented. Do I have a motion to fund 77,000?
So,
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Or further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Vehicles and equipment. I have a motion to ask them to work with the school and zero out at least, I don't want to take it off of the list because they have to figure it out, but I don't want it funded this year, for sure. So I'd just say, keep it on the list, zero out the 1920 amount. And with the request that they see if they can share the vehicle. I will motion that. Is there a second?
Second.
Trevor? Any further discussion?
Can you quote that number again?
28,995.
For this year.
And the pickup is listed here.
Greg said they already
It's-
acquired
They already
that
have
for,
the pickup. The schools already have.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
just-
from
we
the
just got the
total
financing
amount,
on it
the
today.
28,995, the pickup was 10,995.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
What?
Judy has identified that there's other items in the equipment line, and that the truck is only 10,000, what was it? 900,
995.
995.
Page 1 and
The
6.
other piece is in the equipment was the signage, so that, and there was a,
The signage is a separate issue, so that should be taken out.
yeah,
Was it this?
and,
The bus,
Yeah, it's for,
and the other vehicle was a
it's
The
page
bus.
one.
page one,
Right,
was a 15-passenger bus
Yeah.
at 11,333.
Right.
right.
So
So if you-
it should be the 11,333
Reduce
Yeah.
So
to
basically
that amount.
That is correct.
11,333.
Okay.
So Russ, does your motion remain
You
the
wa-
same at that amount?
Okay. Ooh, it was, yeah, I'm just looking here, and Judy brings up, is the 66, in the 28,995, we're saying there's signage as well, which
Right.
we have a $3 different number in electronic signage. So is that,
I actually took the license of upgrading all these figures to either the highest or the lowest 10, so that we weren't dealing with individual dollars.
Right.
the
Just to keep
permanent,
this
okay,
simpler.
but is the permanent signage board, I'm assuming, different than the outdoor digital
It
signage?
is the same.
It is the same.
One and the same.
Okay.
So the
So,
only amount that should be in there for equipment.
gotcha. So we
is the
have a
vehicle at 11,333.
but right now, we already took out the 6670
Right,
as a separate item.
Right,
Right.
I think we were double counting
Then
here.
then we need to take out the 6670 again, plus take out, the 10,995, Judy?
yes.
So what's our total number?
The
now,
number
Rick?
for vehicles and equipment now is 11,333.
And the total number now on rec altogether?
Would be 14,170 plus 0 plus 77,123 plus 11,995, 11,333.
Don't forget the 17.5
Skate
for the
park.
skateboard,
Yeah,
which
from
is
the
on
other
the front
page.
page.
Okay. Plus 17,500. I come out with 120,003. I may have had a,
Yes, 110,000. Let's vote on the 1133 for the.
Yeah, we still need to vote on
Yes.
that. 120,003.
and then
So we want to vote on the
remain,
vehicle
we've
line.
taken, okay, so we've taken the 6670 out, we took it out twice because it was double counted, we took out the Ford 150 and asked them to share for a year, and so all that's left is the 11,333?
Right.
Okay. To replace, when needed, not this year, the passenger bus.
Yeah, just putting money away
Yeah.
for a new van when they need it.
I'm down with that, I'm okay with that,
Yeah,
whatever the
okay.
expression is,
All right.
okay?
Let's move.
Let's have a
aging.
vote.
Yes, can we have a vote on the remaining 11,333 for the passenger van? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. All right.
Now, the next one is problematic.
You want me to leave the room?
The master plan?
I won't be offended if you do. It's something
Yanking
we
your
have to
chain.
do. We have to do. Unfortunately, the state law says we have to deal with it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so now somebody's gonna have to add it all up.
Okay. Master plan. Proposed that continuing to fund for 10,000 a year as we make progress in making the changes to coordinate it. All in favor? Oh, I need a
I'll
motion.
make a motion.
Judy
Second.
motions?
I'll
Judy
second.
may second,
Right.
yes.
Okay. Already, thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None? Great.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair,
much.
may I be excused?
Sure.
I must
Thanks,
go make
Trevor.
some tacos.
Okay. Thank you very much, Trevor.
Oh, thank you all. This is great. This is really
I
great.
think at some point I have to sign off on this,
Do
but
we
not
have
tonight.
a quorum?
Yes,
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 we
1, 2, 3.
have three.
Oh, okay, good, all right, just wanted to check.
And, by the way,
Hope I can.
Al didn't make it back. So let's see. We need all three of us to finish this off.
I think this is all pretty straightforward stuff.
Yeah, from a macro discussion, the only thing that Diane is saying that's not under the bond and grants are these two items, 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I would
Where are we here?
seek a motion for Sean's water as depicted by Diane. The package for the 64,002 outside the bond.
I move so.
I'll second. All in favor of the 64,002 as reported? Aye. It's interesting, we put a wastewater, I'm just thinking in my mind, we put a wastewater plant in for like $14 million over a long bond. And that can't be costing just 21,000. That's vehicles. Do we have the bond?
We've identified that as, what are we talking about?
Well, we have the vehicles under the bond. Let me just
You're
check.
talking about sewer, right?
But you're
Yeah.
talking about the bond issue that was for the sewer or whatever the financing, for the
Right,
wastewater
and
treatment
that
plant.
doesn't show up here?
No. And as a matter of fact, maybe,
That's
getting
why I
back
had
to your
the-
earlier point,
the
that the
school.
school shouldn't be showing up here either.
Right.
Because it's already bonded.
Well, I don't mind it showing up and with the zero, with the comment that we had bond grants.
And I'll do the same thing as I did for the,
Yeah, let me just check, because if it's not there as an item,
yeah, but this is, right, because this is for the capital reserve fund
okay.
only.
And since it's already bonded and granted, it wouldn't be on the list.
The ratepayers are
correct.
paying.
But the repairs and coming up with replacement equipment is part of it.
Okay.
Guess I'll have to explain that. Town council.
Just look at number 31 for a second. Oh, this is where we had the missing page with the water.
Yeah.
Okay. Where does this say bond grant? That's where
On page, it isn't bond grant, that should be crossed out.
okay,
And for the sewer, that should be crossed out, that was a
Okay.
mistake,
Page
carry over.
31.
gotcha,
'Cause I think that, remember we had the Bay Road one,
gotcha,
that was deleted from the list because it was last year's project.
okay. So,
Are we doing water?
we did water as a group, I think.
Yeah,
And we just voted aye on that.
64,002.
We already did. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Now we're in sewer.
Right.
And bond grants are valid for those water projects?
Yes,
Okay.
well, so
Yeah,
Sean
that's-
tells us.
If, just to remind everybody, maybe it's just myself, as a result of the opportunity with the state and other funding sources by packaging and accelerating many of the water items that include Moody Point, replacement of 3 mains, and a whole bunch of things, it would benefit us from grants and larger loans and being able to apply for low-interest loans by packaging. And that was what Sean was saying when he put that package together. And that's why those first 6 are a package with bonds and grants, that would be the complete funding of new capital contributions. And then the 7 and 8, the storage shed
Which is gonna be shared.
is shared between water and sewer. And then the vehicles, wasn't there a vehicle that was shared between
That
water
It's
and
the
public
Ford
works?
pickup.
Is that the 14 grand?
Yeah,
Let's
it's,
see, number 58.
it's
Yeah.
right, we was,
Oops.
There was
That's
two, there was the back on.
so we have it double counted here, is what you're saying?
I had all 58 here to begin with.
It was the.
Back-on, and then there's a
That was
pickup
double.
truck,
And then there was also a pickup truck.
which is shared also.
No, that's not doubled, it's shared.
Right.
Shared.
But
Okay,
it was listed in both places.
okay, so the back
On
on,
page 31 on.
yep, okay, I'm there. Okay, so it's listed for 73,340 in this budget, and it's also in the Public Works budget for, but
I thought it was for half of it.
didn't they,
or is it
wasn't a
duplicate?
shared thing?
I
Greg?
thought there was,
They're not
Maybe.
double,
Vector truck,
yeah,
it's a shared item.
okay. So for each department, the cost to replace would be 7,334?
Mm-hmm.
And where are they, what is Public Works?
vehicles, water is number 58.
I'd have to look that up.
57. 58.
There's 9.
I've got 7334 for,
Water, sewer, drain,
water sewer,
drain, vacuum.
get to Public Works here.
You have it on Public Works as well? So I assume that's a split expense between them.
Public Works shows 11,000 on that truck.
What's the number?
It's page 9.
I know that, but what's the number on the list?
On the list is 20 for
Oh,
the
okay.
for the Public Works. Number 47 International VACCON truck 2004
Okay.
shows
These-
1920 of 11 grand. And in the Public Works, the Waste and Water, for that vehicle, which is on page 58, line item 17.
Yep.
Oh, line item
showing
5
a lesser
is $7,334.
Okay, so,
So
okay,
it's
So
one
basically-
department is paying more than the other,
Correct,
or saving more money than the other.
correct.
Shouldn't it be consistent?
Well, I believe it is the same vehicle, and we have it listed as cost is 200,000.
We did have, I did confirm with Public Works Director, it is the same vehicle
Right.
listed.
Okay, I have we may want to approve it, but I'm having a little head-scratching moment here. The head-scratching moment is on page 9, the item 20, which is supposedly this thing, right?
Mm-hmm. The amount
It
is
says the
different.
cost is 200,000, yet the depreciation is 11,000. So I have a cost of 200 with a depreciation of 11, and water and sewer, I have a cost of 330 with a depreciation of 7, going in the opposite direction.
I know,
So
so which one is
either
it?
it's a $530,000 piece of equipment, and Rick is I mean, water and sewer is putting it over 25 years, and Rick is doing it over 10 years to get a higher depreciation for a lower cost. I'm
It
confused.
should be consistent,
Yeah.
and it should be, if it's
I'd like to-
indeed a 50-50 sharing, then it should be the same amount.
With that amendment, I'd like to approve it since it's an existing vehicle in the fleet that they're sharing, but to figure out what the right numbers are.
Would you like me to get a hold of our Public Works Director and see if he's available?
No.
Well, it's both Public Works and Sean.
Yeah, I think it's a
I'd just like
question
to
for-
understand what the deal is, because
Does Lisa handle water and sewer also?
No. That is,
No.
that's Sue.
So,
So
well,
they
those
know.
two need to figure, at least come up with,
Well, they need to all
verify the
agree
numbers.
and verify the numbers and tell us what they are. For each department, they should be the same number.
I'll find out right now.
I don't know if you'll get the
You're not
answer.
gonna
You may
get them.
find a human being. They have two sets of books. Okay, since Greg doesn't have a vote, I'm gonna do a subject to,
Okay.
Okay.
if that makes sense to
So they're
move this
straightening
along.
this out.
Okay. Subject to verifying the amounts, all amounts, the cost as well as the funding for the vehicles for water and the storage unit, right? We haven't done water yet, right?
Yes,
Or-
we did.
Yeah,
Oh,
we did. The
okay.
storage unit's fine. It's, we need
Or
to,
vehicle sewer.
Right.
Vehicles,
so it's.
Creighton, I don't think we had
Sewer.
any issues on sewer, did we? You wanna do sewer as a package?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Amy, you okay? I will motion that we vote on the sewer as a package, subject to verification of that one piece of equipment shared with water.
It's not, no, it's, the vac truck is shared
With Public Works.
Works.
Oh, you're right.
and
Okay,
sewer.
I amend my amendment to say, I share with Public Works. Okay. For $433,623. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Amy seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done.
Now, when we get the figure, you'll give authority to Greg and I to
Absolutely.
adjust the Public Works.
I will
and
make a
adjust-
motion to adjust any follow-up figures as resolved
Okay,
by our two resident
experts.
experts, advisors, and real employees of the town and the school board. Some, you're shared, right? Okay.
I'm shared.
Yeah.
I'm a shared asset,
Okay.
sir.
I'm shared, but not officially. In many different terms.
Okay, the schools, I'm gonna suggest that we drop the numbers consistent with how we're
Just-
treating
you made a
water, but,
motion.
Yeah.
You made
Vote,
a motion,
vote.
we need a second
oh, okay.
for this
Oh, second.
adjustment
Sorry.
thing.
Oh, okay. Does someone second the motion for water? Okay. Amy does, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay.
None.
We're gonna take out the.
I'm gonna
bond
say the
issue.
first two, we should put in bonds
I'm gonna put zeros
and
across
put
the
in
board.
zeros
For the school
across the
now.
board as far as the SIP contribution.
What'd you call it? Oh,
SIP,
mind.
CIP. Is that consistent, Greg? You okay with that?
I'm trying to,
The bond.
I'm trying to think on,
So you.
Because it's
there's a
not-
payment to the bond that has to be made, which is outside of operating budget.
Okay, that
It's debt service. on
It
the
is
bond.
debt service, right?
Yeah, but it's
And that
not,
should be
it doesn't
part of the
come from a
operating
CIP fund.
Well,
Doesn't
it
come-
doesn't
this is
come from the
just
CIP.
This is just capital reserve funds of the town, so it
Right,
shouldn't be.
I'm just thinking it in my head, I'm trying to mull it in my head to see if there's anything I can think of that says it should or shouldn't be there, but
It would be rolled up in the budget as an operating expense as interest on the
Yep.
bond,
under debt service though.
Yes.
but still part of the operating budget. So whatever the payment of principal and interest.
That being said, that would say a bond those bond payments you wouldn't submit, for instance, next year, you wouldn't submit on
You
it.
wouldn't submit it as a capital project.
Correct.
Because
I
it's an
have no,
operating expense.
I have no problem with documenting whatever bonds we have outstanding, that it was a project at some point, even if it wasn't CIP, and keep them as zeros, to know that they're still alive. I mean, we're breaking sort of new ground. I don't remember that from the past that we've done this.
Clean it up.
We're really refining that
But I
process.
like the fact that we are reminded we got a whole bunch of projects outstanding that we're paying for.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
change that to 0.
So if we're gonna change those to 0, then we're looking at the high school roof replacement, the accounting software upgrade, the floor replacement.
No, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah, those are zeros.
Drop down to
The-
pickup.
The
Fifty.
town,
Roof and the pickup.
the town doesn't appropriate funds
Okay,
for the capital reserve projects for the schools.
right, but we should nonetheless, as CIP, make a recommendation
Right.
to
Right.
the school board and
Yep.
to the population that, okay, so why don't we do them, let's do them separately since they're, the high school roof replacement, a motion for 167,000 funding to do that portion of the roof,
So moved.
okay?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Done. The Newmarket School Department pickup truck that's already been acquired and is being financed, I would say, I think that's a good idea and it should be shared with rec. Do I have a motion on that? Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Trudy seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? I think that concludes our
Now-
voting for the evening.
No,
These
what
two
about
these two,
the
Oops,
accounting
is there another page?
software that Mr.
Ah. But that doesn't have a funding.
Not this year. But he wanted to take it off the list altogether.
Who?
Oh, Al?
But we need to
the
work it out.
software, the accounting
Right,
But
I
you-
guess
Well,
I think it's a moot point
Al
if we
wanted
have
to
two.
make his point, we don't even have a number to vote on.
Okay,
I did ask Meredith the question with I'm on the school building committee thing as well, or somebody, and I know they answered me with, it's a different accounting system and
Yes.
it can't be merged.
okay, so we're just gonna leave it the way it is.
I'd leave it the way it is. I don't think there's a message to pass. Since we don't have a vote, we can't pass a message. We fund 0, but here's what we want you to do with that money.
Now, these two items
Yep.
total
172, 100.
172, 100.
Sorry.
Okay. And,
That looks fine
okay.
with me.
172,
100.
Yeah. So
100.
167 for the roof.
oh, okay,
5,100 for the pickup,
Which is already.
which is already,
which is already here and roaring around town.
Right.
Well, it's not rolling around town yet. I have to pick it up
but this
first.
is,
I have to pick up the pickup.
okay, but this is to replace it
This is fun,
at
this is,
some point in the future. This isn't to pay for what the existing one is.
yeah,
Right. Okay, good.
Okay, so if I'm looking at I'm not sure we have the perfect number yet, though we will.
It's 172,
Okay.
10.
Yeah. for
Oh, okay,
that
you mean
piece.
for the,
the
once we
whole
have to,
thing.
we have to sort out the water and, not water, the sewer and the public works back truck.
and I haven't got a response yet, so,
It's
Okay,
too late.
You and I could talk about that
yeah.
tomorrow.
I appreciate your optimism in that you were gonna get somebody at 10 to 6 to answer that question. But I'm interested in the question only because do they have 2 sets of books on
Mr. Chair,
this?
we have very dedicated department heads here
I understand that.
who respond quite well all the
Yeah,
time.
Rick
No,
responds
I
almost
totally
all the
agree.
time when I call him.
It wasn't.
But I will say,
It
wasn't a
cell
pejorative
signal in here is a little sketchy.
Voting on this, but I just have a question. just
Sure.
for
Sure.
my own knowledge.
Sure.
So the school department pickup truck, it's already purchased, we're gonna pick it up.
No, no.
No,
The sewer see, we're water, whichever.
No, this last one. the
She's
very
talking about the
material
last one.
Yeah,
It's already purchased.
The F-250,
Does
three-quarter
that
ton.
belong in CIP if it's already purchased?
no, this is
We have
for
to replace it in the
This is for
future.
This is for replacing it in the future.
Right.
Actually,
I mean, that's the
well,
whole idea
no.
of this, is
Okay.
that
No, that
you
makes
buy
sense. I was
equipment, it
I'm
only
gonna roll
lasts 10
this
years,
back
you gotta
and see if
replace
I
it, you
remember
start
this.
saving for it.
I got it.
If
It's
I
like
remember
saving for
when,
your second child, their college after
financing
you
this,
pay
right?
for the
We are
first.
financing it.
right.
I get,
This is the one where we're financing
Yes.
and which is probably interesting, shouldn't be in SIP. This is not a bond, this is not a contribution to capital. This is, we're borrowing money from a bank and paying them off over,
So we're not saving for future, this is to pay for the current.
right, we've acquired the truck
Wait a minute.
and we're working
No.
out the financing, yeah. That's what-
Then it should be an operating expense.
That's where I'm
And
confused.
it was
'cause I
my
would
This is-
understanding
think
that this is to
operating
replace it,
expense.
because in
Except
10
it-
years, it's gonna, or it's not gonna.
you're gonna have, you need the money to be able to replace the truck in the future.
Okay, so if it's for replacement, it makes sense to be here, but if it's for something that we're paying
Okay.
for,
It should
then
be,
it should be in the.
The payment for the truck
should be in an
itself,
operating
currently
budget,
being
because it's debt
purchased, will be
service.
in operating budgets.
Okay,
Okay, but now that we're acquiring it, we're putting money aside
for another one.
for another one sometime in the future, because we're only putting away $5,000. Is that the?
Okay, all right,
Okay.
that makes sense, I was just confused.
No,
no, me
Okay.
too.
ask any question.
All right,
Diane, I don't know if you have any more quick comments
I have none.
on the large sheet, which we need to make a few changes on. I just want to go through
What are the
something
changes
for
you
a quick
wanna
second.
make?
Well, we
Under
have a
the
couple of
school.
numbers changes that have to roll up into this page that we made.
I've already put the numbers in
great.
here.
And I like it better because by taking out the school bonding amount and taking out the bonding amount from the water and sewer and stuff, that $4 million at the bottom is gonna go down to what, about $1 million, maybe about $1 million with some of the changes that we had. So I just think it's projecting a more realistic number rather than betting the bond payments in to the stream. And still recognizing that the number for the town is on line 24, subtotal general fund. So whatever that accumulates to would be the recommendation for the town on the big sheet. That water and sewer, which we approved pretty much as is with a minor change due to whatever that vehicle thing is. That's funded by the rates, and then the schools, which we just approved, which is down at the 100-some-odd thousand.
172,000.
That more than likely will be a warrant article
Because it's got the roof.
for the roof. And I don't know if they need a
Warrant
warrant.
article for the school.
Yeah.
The school doesn't fund with an operating budget, they fund with a warrant.
Right.
And I don't know what they do with the truck.
What's up?
Would they put the truck down as a warrant article to fund $5,000 into?
They already
they-
paid
For the
For
payment?
the roof, they're gonna have to do a warrant article.
Payment will be part of the operating budget.
The roof would be a warrant article, well, yes, it'd be a warrant article.
The CIP contribution in the school would have to be done by warrant article, so I
Yeah, the
just
truck
wonder
would
what you-
be an operational budget item. The
Now-
payment would be.
But they wouldn't be putting away the money we're talking about putting away into the SIP unless they had a warrant
So the
article.
roof is a warrant article?
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do
So-
with this. It's-
Yeah, we need to resolve
That's on the
whether
school
the
side.
school
That's on the
needs a
school
warrant
side.
article to
No, we
put money
don't.
away for the
They
truck.
have to resolve.
Yeah, they have to resolve.
Yeah.
We're saying it's a good expense, but
Yeah.
we're questioning the CIP nature of it. But we'll keep it in.
What we need is a bottom line figure for this, for the town, that's
Okay.
all.
Do you need anything else from us, Diane?
How about a 6 months about?
You got it.
We approve.
And
I did get a response from our our Public Works Director, he's currently in a meeting in Dover, and I asked him a question about the two different payment amounts and the two different values, and he has not got back on that, but we will, it may be any second or not at all.
You could
Okay,
email
and
us.
tomorrow he is not available.
So if you could email us if you feel it's important.
I will, as soon as we figure it out, we'll send you an
You
email.
need me as chairman to sign off on something at some point, right?
No?
Oh, I thought we had to give Steve a number of the town council on Monday.
I'm gonna give it to
Oh, okay, great. So is November 3rd, I thought
him.
there was.
That's my date, I mean, that's what he has tentatively said.
Okay.
You don't have to sign it. You
So
can-
I don't even have
You can
to-
sign it if
I
you want to.
remember in something we had that you were asking Rosie or something in the prior years to sign some recommended numbers, but if not, that's fine. We're cool. Okay. Thank you. I think
Thank you, we made it. 5 minutes to spare.
we made it with 5 minutes, but
Second.
I honestly would like to thank Trevor for his participation, you guys for yours.
This year?
3-0-0.
And strangely enough, this is starting to fall into place after 5 years of banging on the doors, isn't it, Judy?
Yeah,
It is, we have made a lot of progress.
Motion to adjourn?
we already had
already
that.
just
No,
did that.
We outvoted you.
Thank you for letting me know.
Well, you were too busy talking.
Otherwise, I would have.